Welcome to the Exponential Edge podcast with your host, Arya Sulur. I'm excited to have you join me on this journey, exploring the forefront of technological advancements and innovation that will shape our future. As a junior at Acton-Boxborough Regional High School in Massachusetts and the CEO of SecArmor, a cybersecurity startup, I'm fascinated by the transformative power of technology. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into 5 key areas that are poised for exponential growth in the next decade. We'll be exploring the realms of cybersecurity, generative AI, sustainability and climate tech, biotech and human longevity, as well as the reshoring of manufacturing. And we'll also go over rising startups disrupting the marketplace. These topics and businesses hold immense potential to revolutionize our world and redefine the way we live, work, and interact. Each episode will feature insightful conversations with experts, thought leaders, and visionaries who are at the forefront of these fields. In just 30 minutes, our goal is to provide you with 5 signature nuggets of wisdom from our guests. These key takeaways will empower you with knowledge and help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving technological landscape. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest for this week. Hello, everyone. Our guest today is Michelle Muller, Chief Experience Officer and co-founder of Little Spoon. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So first off, could you just give us a brief summary of your career thus far?
Wow. Okay. Where do I begin? So I always like to say I had a past life, and it was working in real estate development in New York City. It was a super cool, sexy job. We were building hotels and luxury high-end condos here in New York, and several celebrity clients that we were working with and designing their layouts, their apartments. It was really cool. And, for a transplant Texan landing in New York in their early 20s, it was wild. I felt like I was shot out of a cannon. But I ended up having kiddos pretty early in my mid 20s, which is kind of unusual in a place like New York. But I would say that was the single most pivotal moment of my life, becoming a mother and forming that relationship with my now 16-year-old. Time flies. But here in New York, we're lucky. We have all these amazing farmers markets, and these farmers and producers come down and sell their goods. And so I would always love to go on the weekends with my son and shop there. And when he started eating, I realized there were sort of 2 options out there for parents. It was either go to the grocery store and buy food that is ambient temperature and sitting on the grocery store shelf. And a lot of people don't think to look at expiration dates, but if you flip it over, oftentimes those shelf-stable baby food pouches or jars are good for up to 2 years, which is just wild, right? Like, that's actually older than the child that's going to eat the food, which just seems so strange to me, right? Like, flavor's lost, texture's lost, color is lost. And then you have the other extreme of sort of the world I was living in, where you go to the farmer's market every couple of days and you're steaming and chopping and, cleaning pots and pans, and it's a whole 6-hour endeavor. So it really hit me that I didn't understand why there were such extremes out there. Like, why isn't there something somewhere in the middle, right? Where you're not sacrificing the flavor, the taste, the texture, the experience and exposure, but also not having to destroy your kitchen every 3 days, right? Like,
yeah.
What happens if you puree a butternut squash that's 3 pounds and then your kid hates it? You just wasted your time and a bunch of food. So long story long, I ended up having my other 2 boys. And somewhere around 2014 is when I started kind of tinkering, exploring the space, thinking about all the disruption that was happening in grocery stores, particularly like cold pressed grain juices. I mean, you could get more fresh carrot juice than you could with baby food. And it just felt so silly that no one had disrupted this business. So headline news, it takes a while to build a cold chain CPG direct-to-consumer business. But I ended up getting connected with my business partners, Ben and Angela, and we worked quite hard over a couple years to get everything set up. And then we launched Little Spoon in November of 2017. So we actually, believe it or not, 2 nights ago, we celebrated our 6th birthday party with our Little Spoon team here in New York. It was really fun.
Yep, congratulations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. You've had a unique journey to where you are now. So could you just give us a little overview of what Little Spoon is all about and the vision that brought your business partners together to found the company?
Sure. So the vision at Little Spoon is pretty simple, and I'd like to say simple but revolutionary at the same time. So the idea is that Little Spoon is here to make kids healthier and make parents' lives easier. So it's interesting when you look at the stats of individuals that are having or couples that are starting families. We have now Gen Z having kids, in addition to the tail end of millennials. But it really took us aback when we realized 90% of households today that are having young children or babies, they're dual working homes, meaning both parents have to hold down a job. The cost of living is just skyrocketing right now. And work is a necessity. It's not a nice to have anymore. It's really, really tough to manage a household on one income. And so when you think about the impact that's having on young families, mom and dad are out of the house the majority of the day, and leisure time is cut out of the equation very, very quickly. So I think, perhaps if there was a stay-at-home parent, the kid goes down for a nap for 2 hours, maybe you could do some preparation at home. But in the world we're living in today, it's nearly impossible. And I think at the same time, parents today, modern parents, realize more than ever that their time actually has a dollar value to it. Every minute that you're spending at work, doing household chores, running errands, grocery shopping, whatever it is, that's time you're losing with your kids, with your partner. And more than ever, people are realizing that that's value, that the time is gone and you never get it back. So they're constantly sort of hacking life. There's amazing apps out there to help optimize your kids' development, help them sleep better, all of these things. So we just think about Little Spoon and really thinking about not just the child we're feeding. Absolutely super important. The quality, the ingredients, the intentionality of what we're introducing when along the journey. But at the same time, we're thinking about the parents and how do we do this in a way that is optimizing their time and really trying to make it as easeful as possible for them because they've got so much on their plate. So yeah, that is sort of the mission, I guess you could say, of Little Spoon. But what are we all about? So when we launched in 2017, we only had baby food purees to begin, but we knew we always wanted to expand further. There was always a vision of going beyond just babies. So essentially what we've grown up into is what we like to call an end-to-end platform that's designed to address every moment of eating and nutrition throughout a child's journey. So from what we say, baby to big kid.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And you've touched upon this a little bit. And given your multifaceted role as obviously a startup founder and also a marathon runner and single mother of 3 kids, how have these experiences shaped your vision and product lines for Little Spoon and that customer-focused mentality that you've been talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have quite a few values at Little Spoon, but number one right out the gate is that the customer is the center of our gravity. It really is the driving force behind every single thing that we do. We are maniacal about getting to know our customers, who they are, where they live, how many kids do they have in their house, are they married, are they single, do they work, what are their hobbies? And part of that is talking to them. So on average, we have at least 20 direct customer phone calls every single week. I handle many of those myself. I probably on at least 1 or 2 days a week, our customers support live lines. Again, because I don't want to lose touch with that frontline connection with our customer. But with our getting to know our customer, we're always having conversations about, what do you like about our products? What's working for you? Is there anything that's not? Do you feel like we could do something better? Is there something that we're not offering that you feel like is a gap in your eating or your child's eating experience? So we're just constantly talking to them, hearing about what they love, what they don't love, and where we need to go next. So I would say that's probably like the driving force at Little Spoon, right? But for me personally, Michelle, there's obviously a lot of lived experience that I've been through. Running a marathon is insane. I think we just had the marathon this past Sunday here in New York, and I go every year. If I'm not running it, I want to be on the sidelines to cheer the runners. It's so phenomenal. And I like to say it is the best day in New York City every year. It is one of those days that just restores your faith in humanity to look out there and see blind runners, deaf runners, paraplegic runners. There was a woman that was running who had Down syndrome this year, and she crossed the finish line, and that was so unbelievable to see. But I think if there's one theme that connects marathon running, being a startup founder, and also being a divorced single mom, is resilience, right? Like, you're facing challenges, you are attempting something that has never been done before, or it's been done by so few people, and you have to have a sense of grit and a sense of resilience. And I think also the ability to be nimble and flexible, right? I think it's a skill set that really can only be built when you go through challenges. And so I think flexing that muscle, strengthening it, has really set me up for success as a leader in a startup, because things happen, right? You know, the economy can be a roller coaster. We could launch a product that doesn't land as well as we thought it would. So being able to iterate and shift is critical. So I would say all of those things have only, positively influenced the way that we've grown at Little Spoon and unlocked a lot of potential, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that you were able to find this somewhat unconquered space and make a successful company out of it does speak to that resilience too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So just shifting a little bit towards Little Spoon's business model. How have you guys managed to balance the imperative of a high quality and nutritious set of products with the affordability, obviously, with a diverse range of families that is a big focus of your company? I believe your blueprint plan, that's what it's called?
Yes. So that is for our baby food. So we have something called the blueprint where, listen, a lot of parents that find Little Spoon, they're a first time parent, right? So they're feeling a little bit like a fish out of water. The world of social media has unlocked a lot of information sharing, which is really beautiful to see. But at the same time, there's just as much misinformation being shared out there, in addition to what I would call like mom shaming or parent shaming. You come across, and I'm sure, Aria, you're not like looking at mom influencers every day, but you'll come across individuals that, they're in their pre-pregnancy jeans 6 weeks after having a baby, and everything looks perfect, and their kid never spills anything on the floor. And so it's very easy to drop into this vibe of, I'm not good enough. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm failing. I can't seem to figure out how to take a shower in 24 hours, with my 6-month-old. But this lady's over here in high heels and looking fabulous, right? So the whole idea of our blueprint, but also Little Spoon as an end-to-end platform, is really to build a company that's based on transparency, We don't hide anything about our ingredients. In fact, we talk about them openly and kind of sing it from the rooftops because we're so proud of what we've built. There's in our older kids' ready to eat lunches and our grab and go snacks, we like to say it's junk free and it's a win-win for mom and kids. We have hidden vegetables. There's no added sugars or corn syrup or those ingredients you commonly find on the shelves at the grocery store. So we've been very intentional, and it hasn't always been easy when it comes to sourcing ingredients or formulating a recipe to make sure that we can get it to our families and it can be consumed without additives and preservatives being put in. But the truth is we've had opportunities to take shortcuts, and we've had development milestones in production where we could have gotten something to market maybe 3 times as fast, but it would have sacrificed on the quality that we find valuable. So that being said, it was always important to us that we don't ever take shortcuts because we want to build a brand that at the end of the day, our parents will look at the nutrition panel, they will look at the ingredients, but they don't have to. And it's really more of, oh, they turn it over and, oh, of course there's nothing bad in here. Little Spoon always does a good job, right? And so if we come from a place of integrity and always do the right thing, always take the high road, then we build a really beautiful relationship with our customers around support and trust, and they don't have to overthink it. We can save them time on that front as well. The blueprint, going back to that, is really intentional with exposure to not just ingredients, but texture. And we address things like ancient grains and whole beans at the right moment. But we've worked with our pediatric team and registered dietitians to intentionally follow a journey. And there's actually scientific backed research that shows when you introduce, 80 or more ingredients in addition to texture before the age of 12 months, that child will have a 50% reduced likelihood of becoming what we call a picky eater. I don't personally like to use that language. I think it's kind of a bad word and kids hear it being said about them and then they sort of think they need to embody it. But, parents have always hit a roadblock around that at some point. There's a food a kid loves for years and then all of a sudden they hate it. So those kids that do have this great exposure to what we like to say is eating the rainbow and also that texture, it really, really mitigates headaches down the road once you might expand your family again. And, now you've got 2 kids or maybe even 3 kids to feed at the same time. We don't want to make that more complicated than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. And going into what you said, your main focus is the quality of your food. Obviously, the baby food industry recently has had some controversy with food quality, and it's been more about quantity and ease of sale than quality recently. I won't get into the specifics, but how does Little Spoon, what quality assurance measures does Little Spoon have in place at your company kitchen?
So we have a director of food safety and quality. So there is something in the industry that's called QA or quality assurance. There's standards in place, of course, but Little Spoon has even taken it further. We are hyper attuned to allergens and cross-contamination risks. So every time we're producing not even just a particular product line, but each individual meal, we use a practice called swabbing, and that's happening throughout production. So we're swabbing the containers the food is being prepared in to make sure that there's nothing that could compromise the quality or that nothing has cross-contaminated. But I think I'm glad that you asked that question because, there's certainly some food businesses that are like in the bullseye and getting in a lot of trouble right now, and I do think that there is an opportunity for them to improve the quality of the product they're putting out. Absolutely, no question. But I do think that there is also at the same time a bigger picture issue, and that's honestly our food system as a whole, right? Like, you can have organic farms, but literally right next door, on the other side of a fence, it could be farmland that is not certified organic, and they can spray their crops like crazy, and then you get runoff, right? So we can do everything that we can, but the truth is that these chemical compounds are in the environment, and it's
Yeah.
because, I mean, I don't want to demonize the government, but they're not exactly known for moving quickly. And I mean, look at cigarettes and even
Yeah.
like devices right now, and the
Hmm.
hot topic about like how much screen time is okay for a kid to have or not, and it's a bit of the Wild West, right? So I think this happened in the food space. There were activists back in the 70s, 80s, like banging the drum around this, and nothing's happened. And to this day, it's really, even still, there's not much that's really happened around it. So the truth is that we're living in a world where these chemicals exist, and I think there are things that parents can do to mitigate exposure. Obviously trying to buy from companies where you can follow the trail of who's the farm they're buying from.
Yeah.
At Little Spoon, we buy from this amazing farm called Stallbush, and you can go to our website and read all about them. And my partner Angela, who's our chief product officer, visits there regularly, so we know exactly how the land is being treated, that there are no chemicals used, and we're very, very intentional about our sourcing. However, I think broadly speaking, and this would go for adults that are listening right now, the most important thing that you can do is just use variety, right? We don't want to serve our children sweet potatoes every single meal, every
Yeah.
single day. It's a root grown, potato, and so it's sitting in the dirt, so it's
Hmm.
absorbing more than something like an apple growing on a tree. So what I tell our Little Spoon families, or even friends that just come to me for advice knowing the industry I'm working in, I say variety. And if you follow the philosophy of eat the rainbow, so if you take a step back, not even like at the meal you just ate or even your day of meals, but maybe look at a month's worth of food that you've had. And if it looks like a rainbow, then you're doing a really fantastic job. You just don't want to over index on one ingredient. And typically that is enough to mitigate exposure to where it's well below any sort of level of concern.
Definitely. And transitioning a little bit, you guys are taking a bigger and bigger share of the baby food market, and other companies like Yumi and Plum Organics have a similar business model to you guys. So how does Little Spoon differentiate themselves in this market, and how does how do your market strategies and business model differentiate themselves?
Sure. So, we're definitely unique in that we are direct to consumer and always have been from day one. I think there's something that is gained and really special when you are creating a direct line connection to your customer. Like I said, when we first started chatting, we have a philosophy of the customer being the center of our gravity. And so we're talking to them all the time, surveying them, getting on the phone with them. That's something you can't do if you're selling in a grocery store or, maybe like a grab and go store at the airport. You lose that. And so I think honestly, that's been the most valuable aspect of our business, is that we are able to quickly hear from our customers, understand where we need to do better or where we can develop, and then we can move quickly, right? We have our own kitchen. So we're not, beholden to waiting for time to be able to fit in and tinker in the kitchen. We can do it tomorrow if we decide that we want to pull everything together. Typically, we're beholden to getting ingredients into the kitchen to be able to test. But the point is we can move a lot faster. Also, with retail, many people don't realize this, but usually the merchandising in the store, it is reset on an annual basis, right? So perhaps you get 5 meals into a grocery store shelf and the demand is crazy. It's flying like, off the shelf every week, and they want more meals, more SKUs. We wouldn't be able to get additional SKUs on the shelf for another year, right? So that's another sort of handcuff, I guess you could say. And then I think just also that the data and the knowledge, right? Like, we know our customers so intimately. We know how many kids they have. We know their birthdays. We know, if they can't have dairy or gluten. It's very, very different. And one thing I will say, though, is we're extraordinarily protective of our customers' information. That's something we do not share and we will never share. Again, going back to integrity, that is something very important to us.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And looking towards the future, what expansion plans does Little Spoon have in terms of reaching new markets or demographics? I think maybe you guys could expand into new age groups. You guys have your plan, obviously, but maybe expanding into different, like, big kids, senior citizens, and also new dietary restrictions, people with new dietary restrictions.
Well, Arya, I can't tell you specifics, only because it's top secret at the moment, but you absolutely hit the nail on the head. We are going to expand. We have many new products in development at the moment, and we'll have some new things hitting the market next year. So stay tuned. But I guess the long story long is that, yes, we are coming out with more and expanding to older and getting even deeper within our customer that we have now, right? So our customer we have now begins with us roughly 4 to 6 months whenever the pediatrician says hey, green light, go ahead and start eating. And we have families with kids as old as 10 years old that are ordering our ready-to-eat lunches and our snacks. And we also have breakfast plates that they're having for crazy busy morning breakfast time for those older kids. So it's really exciting. I mean, when we first started, we had an age range window of 4 months up to 11 or 12 months. And then now we're 9 more years ahead of that. So it's been a really exciting journey.
Mm-hmm. And personally, I wanted to ask you, I did read that you guys got $73 million in your Series B round of funding in 2021. And I wanted to ask you if you guys ever thought about maybe using some of that funding to delve into technology or AI with your food plants. More specifically, I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people who've used generative AI in multiple different spaces, which you wouldn't think would be too applicable. So just wanted to ask if you maybe thought of that.
That is something that we are exploring. Unfortunately, I can't tell you much more than that. But the one thing I will highlight about our capital raise and more importantly, our lead investor, Valor, they have been truly a dream partner. I cannot sing their praises enough. We are where we are today because of them. They're incredible.
And just going back to your roots a little bit, you're from UT Austin, obviously, and you've had your experience in the real estate development market, which you've talked about. And so how has your passion for those things and marathon running influenced your approach for business and leadership at Little Spoon?
Wow, okay. Lots to touch on there. So UT Austin, I am a diehard Longhorn. I have to tell you, I've traveled to quite a few football games this
Yeah,
season. Um,
they've
we're
been doing pretty good recently.
yes, and I can't wait for next year when we get Arch Manning on the field. That will be a really big moment.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. I mean, I was very privileged to be at the University of Texas back when Vince Young was there, and we won the
Oh,
national
really?
championship.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I was at school, we had just an absolute killer team. And then what happened next was I say we went into the dark years. So it's been really exciting for me to see our team great again and all the school spirit. I'm seeing tons of Longhorns walking around the streets of New York lately, which has been a ton of fun. But Texas is just such an extraordinary university. I am absolutely who I am today because I went to that school. Austin was a very different place when I was there. Now we've got, Facebook, a Google campus. There's tons of tech startups there, and it's been awesome. I was down at the Macomb School last May, taking a tour of the new building and talking to the director of development. And it is just extraordinary the opportunities the students have there to jump into tech, get internships, get jobs right out of school, and really explore and trying to figure out what they want. It's such a supportive university, and I literally cannot say enough good things about it. I cross my fingers and toes constantly, hoping that one of my three boys will end up a student there. But it's notoriously difficult to get into from out of state. But no, it was such a special experience. The professors there are very available. There's so many mentorship and internship opportunities that they provide, and they really do a good job of setting you up to listen to speakers of local businesses or CEOs, founders, and I just couldn't get enough of that. So we talked about the marathon running and resilience building. But it's funny, when I moved to New York straight out of college, literally I packed up a U-Haul and drove from Dallas to New York. Like, I drove through the Lincoln Tunnel, which is insane for me to think about nowadays, but maybe that's part of the resilience thing. Um, but it was my intention was to come to New York and maybe get like 2 to 5 years working experience here. I mean, New York is like the pinnacle, right? And you work your butt off, but it pays off. And I really wanted to just like get into that grittiness and work hard. But my intention was to go back to Texas. Well, I ended up staying and starting a family, and I'm about to approach 20 years in New York, which is so surreal. But I think having moved from New York or being born and raised there, I mean, my parents and grandparents are very down home, like roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty type of people. My mom and I love to scuba dive together. She's very active and always a sense of adventure, but also just a humbleness. And because I was raised around that, I've heard people talk about how success never feels the way that you thought it might. And, even though Little Spoon is growing so crazy fast and our team is growing so much, I know every single person's name on my team. I know if they have pets. I know if they have kids, what the kids' names are, how old they are. And I look at my team as people, and we're building something together. And their humanity and their individuality is influencing who Little Spoon becomes. And that's not lost on me. But one thing I think about above all else is it would be foolish as a leader to think that your talent and your amazing team members will always be with you, right? And I mean, if I could keep everybody with us forever, that would be awesome. But there will be a day. It might be a year from now. It might be 10 years from now. But our team members are going to move on beyond Little Spoon. So it's not realistic to sort of entrap them. The best thing that you could ever do for your team is to empower them to get out of their comfort zone, talk to you about like what makes them curious. That's the beauty of a startup, is you're still smart enough small enough to where you can take someone on the tech team and connect them over to the marketing team. You can take someone on, the operations team and have them connect with the customer success team and get to know what makes everything tick and how is everything connected. And it's so, so beautiful to see that evolve in my team members. And what I like to think is I'd love to build Little Spoon to be something that is thought of as the great exporter of talent. So if one day my team member is floating around and looking for a new role beyond Little Spoon, someone sees Little Spoon on their resume and they say, oh gosh, put them on the top of the pile. Little Spoon knows how to run a business and the people come out just powerhouses. We got to get them. And that is a top priority of mine, is just always invest in your talent, scaffold around them, support them, and help them, shine and build those skill sets while they're with you.
Mm-hmm. And as we're closing out, and you've talked about your people-focused mentality, could you share with us some heartwarming customer stories or staff stories that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had several families come to us with babies that have a G tube. So they have they're tube fed. And they specifically come to Little Spoon because they don't want what's on the grocery store shelves. They want the most nutritionally dense food that they can find. And so we've had so many heartwarming messages from moms and dads of G2 babies. And then they'll follow up and send us pictures, 3 years later, of that baby, running around and thriving and living their best life. And we've also had amazing stories where, someone started off in late 2017 ordering baby food from us, and now they're a family with 3 kids, and the oldest is eating our lunchers and snacks, and we have someone on the plates and another one on the blends and bitables. It's so cool to see how many of our families have stayed with us and really grown as we've grown with us.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And finally, could you share with us your 5 key takeaways from our conversation today about scaling a startup under challenging economic conditions?
Sure. My gosh. So I think customer focus is a must. Right? I mean, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. So you better learn to listen to them. I think being nimble and resilient is super key, right? Expectation is the destroyer of happiness, and it's also the destroyer of success. If you put yourself in a box with expectations, you're bound to get let down. So just, have a vision, have a mission, but don't put yourself in, within barricades. Be nimble, be able to flex if things change. I think don't underestimate your team. It's so important to support them and check in with them. Make sure that they're getting what they need out of this too. And like I said, how do you support them to build their own skill set? And, if you are asking and you understand what they need and what they're interested in, then you can provide that for them, putting them on different cross-functional projects and giving them that ability to level up. Next, I would say never stop reading. I'm a just avid reader. So I go in a rotation. I will read a book about leadership. And then next I will read a book about parenting, which interesting, they're very connected. And then I usually pepper in kind of just a fun read so that I have a bit of a brain break. And then I think my 5th, and I would say the most important one, honestly, is it's so important to enjoy the journey. You need to celebrate the little wins. Find moments to have a little happy hour and pour some champagne when you launch a product, or when we celebrated our 6th birthday on Wednesday night, we took the team bowling and, had a whole party and blew out candles on a cake. But it's so easy to get wrapped up, especially in the startup world, with meeting a milestone, and then it's off to the next one, off to the next one. And you're just grind, which you can work hard, you can grind, but you should stop and celebrate those milestones as they come, because otherwise, what's the point? Like, you gotta have some fun.
Yeah. And thank you for those. And thank you so much for joining us today on the Exponential Edge podcast. And thanks to all our viewers for watching this episode. And tune in next time to learn about businesses and trends that will see exponential adoption in the future. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Aria.